as we enter the latter part of our 30s, it's like we have this wisdom where the meaning in life changes, but it's cool that we have all these moments we can archive and stories we can tell. And like this podcast will live on the Permacast, which is hosted, it's a network hosted on Arweave, which means people will be able to find it in hundreds of years when we're gone. You know,
let's talk about this actually, because something we haven't mentioned is I am a fanatic about storing things. Like so when Andrew and I were on tour, like anytime I could, I took lots of pictures, and I never delete a picture. I'm kind of like OCD about that. I just want to keep all my photos. It's because I have a pretty bad memory. And so I don't ever want to lose any of these things. And as long as I can remember, I've always had like a hard drive that I'm storing things on, and I've always worried about that. And, you know, I'm constantly trying to figure out how can I keep this stuff in existence for not just me, but for when my kids are around and like their kids. And, you know, and remember when we used to have to burn CDs?
And then the CDs won't play. Some of them won't play anymore.
The like paint flakes off in the back, and exactly.
So you're telling me you're looking for a solution for permanent storage. I'm glad.
You like that transition? But it's honest though. It's like really true.
Like, yeah, that's what's like, I feel like a project like Arweave and ArDrive is perfect for someone like you who's an archivist. Like you were showing me your hard drive earlier and I was showing you the pricing calculator. Like that's super cool because media can fail. Our bodies can fail, but our memories and our stories like live on forever. Hey, that could be our tagline. Being able to back up all those photos privately or publicly is exciting, right? It's you don't have to, it's one less thing to worry about. It's like reaching that ability to unplug because you know your data is safe and censorship resistant and permanent. It's tight, man. It's really tight.
It's very relieving in a way to know that it's not something you have to be concerned about.
You're tuned to the ArCast, where we talk about the blockchain on the ArCast and how your data remains the ArCast, where ArDrive is the topic, censorship-resistant permanence. Yeah, we got it. Hi, kids. Do you like permanence? Eminem reference. Welcome to episode 17 of the ArCast. This week, I'm talking to Damondrick Jack, who's actually one of my best friends. We went to college together, and we made a lot of music together, toured a lot. Great guy. We get into that, but we talk about his work in blockchain education, his years at Stanford, what it was like producing the Grammy-nominated artists K.Flay and Jidenna. And we also talk about the next steps towards the mass adoption of decentralized permanent storage. Inferno is still happening. You can check your status. Go to inferno.ardrive.io. So the top 50 uploaders, last week it was pretty high. If you upload that flavor, you get rewarded with ArDrive tokens. And you don't want to miss out because there's a lot of exciting things happening. We are announcing Ants and RNS this week, but I don't want to get too into that because we're still kind of laying it all out. So stay tuned to the ArDrive app's Twitter account for all those updates. And of course, we're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. We're in Reddit. We're everywhere, bro. NFT week was great. NFT NYC was awesome. I really enjoyed the DAO NYC event. A lot of great speakers. We got to meet up with BT, who used ArDrive to upload his Orbs project. We had a great lunch with him. The Moonbirds event at Daintree was awesome. And the V-Friends event was cool too. So shout out to Anthony for rolling with me to all these events. And shout out to the ArDrive community members who said what's up to us. We handed out pins. It was awesome. So let's get into it. This is my interview with Damondrick Jack on the ArCast. All right, friends, welcome to the ArCast. It is episode 17, and I'm here with a man who's had a very interesting long career, a good friend of mine, Damondrick Jack. DJ, welcome to the ArCast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here.
I've known you over 20 years, right? 22 years, almost?
2001.
My goodness. I was visiting a friend. We both went to college together. I was visiting a friend. You just hung up your whiteboard. It said DJ's room. And I asked you if you were a DJ. And you said...
I'm not a DJ, but my name's DJ and I love music.
So then I gave you my CD of like these songs I recorded in high school. You gave me your CD, The Doctors of Music, that you recorded in San Antonio. And then eventually we were touring the world, Australia, Japan, England.
Yeah, no, it was just like, so first, no, this had to be like the second week, maybe even the first week of school, right? Freshman year, I don't know anybody. And yeah, I just put up my whiteboard, get a knock at the door, the door's closed, but the board says DJ's whiteboard. I get a knock at the door. What's up? In freshman year, everybody's like friendly and, you just open-minded. So I was like, hey, what's up? And, like I thought maybe you knew me or you were looking for my roommate. Maybe that's what I thought. And then you asked me if I was DJ, and I said, if I was a DJ, and I said, no, I'm not a DJ. But in my head, I'm going, I have no idea where this conversation is headed. And then in that same conversation, right, you handed me your CDs and you said, I'm going to be having practice for the band. Like, if you want to come to the practice. Is this how you remember it?
No, I think I brought you the CD later.
You brought me the CD later?
I don't think I was walking around dorms with my CD. That would have been insane. But maybe I was. Maybe I needed a permanent storage solution.
There you go. See, you could have just sent me to a URL and instead of handing me burned CD.
You gave me your email.
For those who don't know, Andrew has an incredible memory, far better than mine. So yes, I just remember being, this is weird. And I do remember listening to your music and going, this music is also weird, but I really like this guy. And I'm just going to say yes to go into practice. And then I did practice like a week later. And then we played our first show at the coffee house a week after that. And it was just friendship ever since. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then we just kept making music together. And when stuff started happening with the MC Lars stuff, you were always in between jobs or able to work remote or flexible with your schedule. And we traveled so many different countries, man. I'm trying to think.
I was a flight attendant.
Okay, so you got free miles anywhere we went in the world. And then you were kind of the music director, and you'd always fall asleep in surprising places like Australia during a rehearsal of punk bands playing. You fell asleep.
Yep.
Where else do you fall asleep, DJ?
Carnegie Hall is probably my favorite place that I've fallen asleep moments before we were supposed to go on stage and perform.
Because you work so hard.
Tell me how you remember that, because I just remember being asleep and then being like vigorously, shaken awake and being like, it's time to go on stage. But what was in your mind?
Meryl Streep was doing her speech. We were about to go on stage, and the stage manager was like, "Where's the other performer?" I'm like, "I don't know." And we ran all over, and then we ran upstairs, and you were asleep in the dressing room, and we had to go on in like 3 minutes. I was like, "DJ," you're like, "Oh, I was just real tired. Sorry."
Yep. Sounds like me.
Just being a flexible, open person who's open-minded to change, very hardworking, very brilliant. You nothing was handed to you. You worked hard for all your breaks in your life. And I thought it would be awesome to have you on this podcast because you're someone who is always, I feel like, has been an early adopter of technology, and you were an early adopter in blockchain. Maybe not the first wave, but you were definitely an advocate of it. You were into it before me. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about your journey from producer, music science technology major to the projects you're working on now. I thought that'd be tight.
Yeah. Let's go on that journey for sure.
You were born in Texas, San Antonio, Texas.
The truth is about to come out. I always claim San Antonio, Texas, because I love San Antonio. However, I was born in Houston, Texas, lived there from 0 to 9. I do not claim Houston because I had a miserable time as a child there, because when you're a kid in Houston, all there is to do is sweat. You're just hot all the time. And so I just remember playing outside and only being able to do it for 10 minutes and then having to run inside and get more Kool-Aid. So that was my Houston experience. Then I got to San Antonio, and just I was 9 years old, much nicer place. I love now as an adult, I have to say Houston's pretty cool, I guess. I don't know. I don't go back there as much, but there's a lot of food. So I will say that I love food.
You're like a gourmet. You always are curious about food. You're always curious about different cultures. That's something that traveling the world, you're able to do all that, and you still are. But you don't travel as much as you did 20 years ago. 15 years ago?
No, I'm a total homebody now. But let's talk about the traveling thing for a second and how that came to be. So, I grew up in Texas, and I was there till I was 17, and then I left. At 17, 18, if you don't leave Texas at that point, you're never leaving. You're just going to be always in your neighborhood somewhere. And so I was like, I put in an application for Stanford, not thinking that I would get in. And somehow I got the big envelope, and I was like, I guess I'm going to Stanford. I actually had a roommate picked out at like a state school, about 45 minutes away from where I live. So got to Stanford and met people from all over the world. And that's what really kind of lit the travel bug. I wanted to go to Stanford, not to go to California or anything. It was just because I thought I wanted to be an electrical engineer. And I picked up a US News magazine one day, and I was like, what are the best schools for electrical engineering? This is like when I'm 14 years old. And Stanford was near the top. It was like number 2. MIT was number 1. But I later learned MIT was like, it felt like all work, no play. And Stanford felt like a good mix of both.
MIT was your safety school.
Yeah. I do not think I could have got it.
But you majored in music science and technology, which was cool because you had for your units to graduate, you had to produce albums. You had to be in a studio, right, for certain hours.
Oh, yeah.
So we definitely took advantage of that. You did a lot of stuff with K.Flay. You did Jidenna's and Chitty's music, right? And he went on to Grammy-nominated? Did he get Grammy-nominated?
Jidenna's doing very well.
And Christine got Grammy-nominated. Like, all the magic touch of DJ in the studio.
I think there was just something in the water at that point in time. Like that era of Stanford was pre everyone wanting to start a tech company. It was like, that was where the most popular major, I think at the time, was like pre-med. So Stanford wasn't like super duper tech at that point. So there was still like a lot of people who were just there, I don't know, being creative. And so I'm sure that's still the case, but it was less, I felt, money focused at the time. It was just like,
well, and quite literally, the class under us was these Web 2 monoliths, Kevin Systrom, who launched Instagram, and then Jack Conte launched Patreon. These people who were like 1 year younger than us, who had these really cool creative ideas. And Kevin was a billionaire, or sold Instagram for $1 billion. Like, that's pretty good use of your time. He was working at the radio station as the publicity co-director with me, and had other projects he wanted to work on. That was like a smart use of time. But like, they're also the artists, right? Because Jack was an amazing musician. Kevin was a really good photographer and DJ, right? These artists who found ways to monetize their work. And I think something, DJ, about you is that you've always been really good at collaborating with people. And that's given you this really interesting, long, very original career. Would you agree you're good at collaborating?
Yeah. I honestly think I was put on this earth to help people. Like, it's the only thing I really feel comfortable doing, is either helping or learning. Otherwise, I'm super introverted, and I'm just, like I said, I'm a homebody. But if you need my help, or if I have an opportunity to learn something cool, I am just completely out of my shell at that point. So, in college, there was a lot of having access to the studio. Meant there was a lot of opportunity to help people who wanted to get into the studio and who didn't have like the patience to sit down and learn how to use Pro Tools and all that. That was my jam. I loved being behind the computer, and I got to work with great people such as yourself, by the way.
Hey, that's nice. Thank you, DJ. Well, and also in like these world-class studios in the lab where MIDI was invented or perfected, like the access to the technology is really, really cool. And it's really interesting how like, this whole idea of digital sovereignty, right, which is like behind a lot of crypto. People talk about that. That was always the ethos of being able to independently put out the music we did, travel, and do things without necessarily ever being signed to a label, because we learned how to be self-sufficient. And I think that's a lot of the ethos of Web3 and crypto, which really inspires me and makes me like love my job every day. Like, do you see a connection there, or am I kind of reaching?
Oh, no. It was the democratization of like you're being able to get your music out there to people through the internet without having to go through the gatekeeper of a major label. So what is it called? Like publicity, or publishing. What is it called where you like put your music out? I think that is called publishing.
Yeah, publishing your distribution and publishing, right?
Distribution. It was like the democratization of distribution.
And the way to do it is also, we learned, you don't spend a ton on studio budget. You don't spend a ton on whatever. You do a lot of ideas, and you were always very good at helping me pick the best ideas. We'd be like, let's try everything. And every album, like pretty much, we'd always have a meeting, like what songs are working, what aren't. And that's like the engineer in you, man. So like you worked for Southwest Airlines, you worked producing all these different artists, and then you slowly started work. Like, is that when you connected with Fred and started working on the startup world? Or let's talk about that. Your IoT years.
Oh, that's a very, very simple like explanation for why I ended up doing that. So I'm very much I value freedom over security. You know, I always have. I love the idea of being able to do what I love to do, and I can't really work in a corporate environment that is stifling for too long. Like I get unhappy. So it's just how I'm built. But I tend to not. As a result of that, I tend to not have a lot of money most of the time. So I've learned to live like very resourcefully. You know, one of my favorite experiences, like I lived in my car 3 different times in the Bay Area. You know, rent is expensive. I had a Honda Element. I was like, shoot, let me throw up some curtains in this bad boy, like find a nice place to park. And it was great. And I would go to work as a flight attendant and have hotels and then come back and just sleep in the car for a few days and then go back to work. And I had a gym membership. But okay, I'm always trying to start something. I'm always trying to do what I love. But occasionally I run out of money. Now, when I was single, that was not a problem. I have a wonderful partner in my life now who does not like to see me run out of money. So what she said was, at the time I was working on a waffle and ice cream business called Mr. Waffleton's. And
right.
It was, yes. So it was this idea that I had because I loved waffles and ice cream. And I was like, this should be a thing where you can just go to a store and get a waffle topped with ice cream and be able to put all sorts of toppings on it. Well, anyway, trying to get that idea off the ground, like my partner, whose name is Allison, she said, how about this? Let's compromise. I think she gave me 4 months or 6 months or something like that. I had been working on it for a while at that point already.
We'd been testing your recipes, right? You'd always be like, I've got a new batter recipe. Yeah.
Yes. And by the way, I do have the best waffle recipe, not to brag, but yeah. So Allison gave me a very specific length of time. Well, we agreed to it. And I said, yeah, I should be able to launch this business by then. You know, we'll be rich within that amount of time. Just kidding. I didn't say that, but I did think I would be able to get it off the ground. Turns out I was wrong. And to honor the agreement was if I couldn't do it within that amount of time, I had to go get a job, like a job that paid real money, like a stable job. And so it came down to the end. I didn't have Mr. Waffleton's ready to roll. And so I went and I was on Reddit because I love Reddit. And I was scrolling and I saw an ad that said, I think it was like something like $80,000 a year in tech sales. And I was like, what is tech sales? Like, I've never liked the idea of going into sales, but I clicked on the ad. It was a tech sales boot camp. And I was like, okay. So I went to this, and the boot camp didn't charge you unless you got a job. So I was like, well, this is back in 2017, I think, 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. So I did the boot camp. It was about a month long. It was great. It was called Always Hired, and did that. Then I got a job in tech sales, and the job happened to be at an IoT company. And I loved it. The company's called Particle. And I didn't know what IoT was before, like, I started interviewing for them. And it ended up being a really great time of being around a bunch of super smart people who were awesome. And I loved it.
I'd never heard of IoT until you got that job. So I was just thinking about that. Like, you were kind of an early adopter with that too, right? I don't know.
I think so. Well, I was like mid, if you think about like the hype cycle, it was probably like near the peak of the hype cycle, or like a little bit before the top. But it took me a long time to really understand what it was. And then when I finally got it, I was like, oh, it's just like attaching the internet to different sensors so that you can read the sensors and control the actuators from anywhere in the world, as long as you have an internet or cellular connection. It's like, oh, okay. But it took me a while to get there.
And then once you were there, like you were there how many years? 3 or 4?
No, I was there for 18 months because like that's generally about the longest I can hold down any sort of normal job. So to future employers, yes, it's true. Actually, I've been in my current role for about 2 years at a nonprofit called Street Code. And the part of the reason I've been able to stay for 2 years is because one, I get to work from home, right? So that's really helpful, and it's part-time. But with going back to Particle, I was there for 18 months. And the reason I left was because I got another shot at Mr. Waffleton. Somebody basically came along and said, I'll pay for the whole thing. It's a great idea. And they fronted the money to start the business. And so Mr. Waffleton's in the end did exist for about 5 months before we ran out of money. But it was a good 5 months and we got nothing but 5-star reviews. So shout out to Mr. Waffleton.
And your sister was helping with your social media.
Yeah, my little sis, Alex, was helping my social.
Shout out to her. Imagine what would happen if Mr. Waffleton's had been a huge success and you were about to scale and then COVID hit and you couldn't have any physical locations. That would have been interesting. Especially since we were a topping bar based operation where people could come and put on their own toppings, like at a frozen yogurt shop, except we didn't charge extra for the toppings. They were all included. So there was no scale. Anyway, that was part of the charm. But how they say things work out for a reason or things happen for a reason. One of the best things to ever happen to me was that Mr. Waffleton's didn't work out because for 2 reasons. One, we had no idea COVID was coming. And then 2 was that is one of the hardest industries to ever be in terms of just physical, so much of that job is cleaning. So I'd be in the shop 12 hours a day making waffles, but then also cleaning and then making more waffles and cleaning. And then you have to clean up at the end of the night. It was so much work. It would have been, and it's so much, right now I'm working on a tech startup, that exists just all online. Mm-hmm. And it's so much easier than a physical product and, having a restaurant. So yeah, worked out well. Yeah. So, I'm always working on something. If anybody knows me, if I'm not working on some sort of side project, it means I'm miserable. So the current thing this is something we haven't even talked about yet, but I didn't understand how to manage money. I didn't understand personal finances till I was in my mid 30s. And then once I understood it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many people in my life who I would love to have this information so that they don't have to make the same mistakes I made and that they can retire one day and they can have a good financial future. So I started doing pro bono financial coaching. I just coach people for free. And it's been super rewarding. I've had probably 65 sessions, at this point, and I love it. But one thing I noticed was the thing that people struggle with is saving. Most people have a really hard time saving. So just to cut to the chase of what the startup does. So the startup is called Vacay, as in vacation. And the idea behind it is to help people build the habit of saving through saving for vacations. So that's our mission statement. Because people go on vacations regardless. I've coached people who had a lot of money and coached people who had no money. They all go on vacations. It doesn't matter if people are broke or not. They're going to find a way to go relax and have a good time. So if we could just get them to save for it in advance, then they can actually have a really great time and not have to have the hangover of dealing with I put $1,000 on my credit card, and now I have to figure out how to pay that off and blah, blah, blah. So that acts as a teaching incentivizer that then scaffolds their money management skills.
So yeah, it's super simple from a user perspective, meaning our mission is to help people build the habit of saving through saving for vacations. But as a user, all you know is that here's a way for you to save up for that vacation you want in 9 months. I want to go to Spain. Okay, I know that's going to cost $1,200. Let me save up X number of dollars per month so that I can make sure I actually go on this trip. Because a lot of people they say they want to do it, but they never get around to it. But it's a different story if you have $1,200 sitting in an account just waiting for you to use it. So you're like, all right, we're actually going to do this thing. So like I said, from a user perspective, it's really simple. And we're going to give you really good tools to help you budget for your vacation, because how much does it cost to even go to Spain for a week? I don't know. Most people can kind of guess, but a lot of them get it wrong. So we're going to give you some better budgeting tools. But here's the real crux of it and why it fits into the mission. Because you might be saying, Well, you're just going to blow the money on a vacation. So how is that helping people like build their savings over time? Well, you can save for your trip to Spain, but we also make it super easy to start saving for your trip to Coachella, or maybe that new wardrobe, or maybe, hey, even an emergency fund. I don't know, just for a rainy day, let's start putting some money aside over there. So once you kind of get in the habit of this automatic withdrawal sort of system, it becomes really easy to just start saving for other things. So just going to help get you over that hump by helping you save for vacation. So that's cool. Vacay.
I like that, man. And you've always had like good perspective on being financially literate. You said once to me, like a 15-minute conversation can save you 20 years of
on your car insurance. No, that was Geico. But
no, you said 15-minute, like you can learn everything you need to know about being smart, financially literate in 15 minutes. I don't know. Did you say that?
No. You're totally right. I was just messing with you. So there's two things. One, everything you need to know about money can fit on an index card. And there's actually a book called The Index Card, which is one of my favorite personal finance books. Definitely check it out. It's very short. It's very simple. And it basically tells you much of what you need to know. The thing I told you was that the difference between, this is going to sound a little bit morbid, but just hang in there. The difference between dying broke and generational wealth is about an hour conversation. Like an hour-long conversation can make the difference between someone dying broke and having generational wealth. It's not hard stuff. It's just that you need somebody to tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you said that, and that's very interesting because like one of the things you do, which I think is really cool, is working to be an advocate for people of color to learn about this stuff. Because especially in the crypto space, it seems kind of I don't know. That diversity isn't represented well. I don't know if that's a stereotype, and but educating people about blockchain too, right? Like you were talking about that. That's been kind of your mission as well.
I did that. Yeah, I did. So at Street Code, we launched something called a PNFT. It stood for philanthropic NFT, and so the idea was that a nonprofit launched this NFT. So any income revenue that came in was a tax write-off because it's all going to a nonprofit. So that's a little different than a normal NFT where you just buy it and you don't get any you don't get any write-off for it. This is actually a donation in the form of an NFT. So yeah, we did that. It was a really cool experience to kind of launch an NFT project. I now understand how much work goes into that because so much of it is just you need to have really good marketing around it, and awareness and have a good mission. So, but yeah, I would say we did fine. We didn't make $10 million or anything like that, but we did fine. We made $15,000 in 15 days. So I think that was one of our most successful fundraisers to date. But I was a big advocate of teaching our community that we serve at Street Code about it because the problems that are solved are related to the problems that you experience. And if you have the same group of people solving problems, you're going to come up with a lot of similar solutions. But if you bring in diversity into the problem solving space, you start getting abundance of solutions and solving problems for people who solving problems for other groups of people, right? So there are problems that I don't even know exist because I don't live in a certain country or I don't fit a certain demographic. But you want people from that space solving problems in that area to address the needs of that demographic. So I think the more diversity we have in any space that requires innovation, the better.
So you're talking about education, and an hour can be the difference between dying broke or not, right? That because blockchain technology is still finding its footing and there's the up and down with the market and everything, that it makes it so people who are trying to just get by financially, it makes it kind of off-putting, even though it can be a liberating thing. What do you think are some of the barriers to adoption for, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. It's very simple. You need a really great use case that matters to people. So, just buying and collecting these NFTs that don't really do anything, they don't have any utility, that people see that and they go, I don't understand it. What is the usefulness of this? You need a killer app, so to speak. I think once it actually has a benefit in people's lives, then they will say, oh, then if this is a better solution than what I'm currently using, well, then I'll do this, assuming the barrier to entry isn't like the knowledge barrier isn't too high. But yeah, people just will gravitate towards what is like easier, faster, cheaper. So we need to like if blockchain wants, or people in the crypto space want to gain adoption, you just need to start building stuff that has real utility.
Sometimes that's missing in tech, maybe. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what I believe, like, so I do not believe it's possible for me to be taken advantage of. Like, so I'm super generous because I just believe that if you put generosity out into the world, I believe in abundance basically. So I don't worry too much about me and like, am I going to benefit from this? That's why I do pro bono financial coaching. I'm not trying to like make money off of it. I just want to help people because I kind of want to live my life like an experiment that says, if you just help people, can that have some sort of return without you trying to force it? And if you look at my life, it's like a testament to that. I mean, I've never taken a job like that I absolutely hated and kept, because of money, or I've never like tried to wrong people because of money. Like, I got to like be stingy and stuff like that. And I'm totally fine. Like financially, I pay all my bills. Like I'm not rich at all, but like, I don't stress a lot about money and I have a lot of free time, which is cool to work on things that I love. So, I do believe it all kind of comes back to you.
And that's why you've been curious about the technical utility elements of Web3 and not being so obsessed about the prices of things. Like you've taught me to kind of be chill, let go. What do you believe in? And I think that's like people can really get, I think with COVID, people were really looking at their computers and their phones because we were all so isolated, and crypto had a huge boost because of that. And maybe it wasn't because of COVID, but like it was so exciting to see the adoption happen. And now during this potential bear market, the question is like, what happens now? The things that are useful really we'll see if they have legs. Like for instance, was there connections between Web3 and IoT?
I mean, the cool thing about IoT is like you can make a connection between that and just about like anything. But there was it was IATA was a token related to IoT, and I can't remember what the utility of it was. I'm sure it actually had some utility, but it did not do well. Now because as you recall. And this kind of is the same for businesses too, in a way. It's not just about the utility; it is also about the marketing behind it, or like the awareness and the community behind it. So if you can grow a community behind your token that has utility, I think that's what I would look for if I were looking for tokens or companies to invest in. I would look for something that has a really strong utility and a really strong community, and then just buy it and hold it, because forget what the market says on a day-to-day. It's like extremely volatile. But if I believe in the project and I love the community.
Your boy, Sean Fanning, the Helium project, right?
Let me just say for the record, I love Sean. That I can't claim that he is my boy. Like if we saw each other, we'd give each other a hug. But yeah, Sean was super great. Dude, super great to me. I got to work with him for about 2 years. Yeah, so love Sean. Sean, if you hear this, hey man. But yes, tell me about Helium.
You introduced me to Sean, and that was the highlight. Talking to him about his life and his house in San Francisco. That was really fun.
I don't even see Sean. Something that I understand about Sean is he was always like ahead of where everyone was. I'm sure he still is. He was so far ahead. Like even having a normal conversation with Sean, I would like have trouble understanding and keeping up with what he was talking about. Like he's one of the few legit geniuses I've ever met in my life. Like I'm like, oh, he's on another level. So,
but no, it's interesting. The father of like giving our generation this Gutenberg press ideation of decentralized media, right? Because like Napster was this idea of the peer-to-peer sharing in a way that kind of, I think, forged us to think about Bitcoin and think about Arweave and ArDrive. And when I explain Arweave and ArDrive, I always use the Napster model. So it's interesting just drawing these connections between the people we've met in our life who have integrated with music and tech and making the world tighter. You feel me?
Yeah. And when I said I worked in Sean Fanning's studio. It was his recording studio, just to be clear, because Sean Fanning is a huge fan of music. And so we got to like jam in his house and stuff. Pretty cool.
What are some of your earliest memories of using the internet and using computers to communicate to a broader world?
Yeah, my earliest memories of using a computer were the Apple IIc Plus and playing the Jungle Book game on floppy disk. And then I remember my dad got a very expensive at the time computer. I think it cost like $3,000 or something. Ooh. And so Apple IIc Plus was when I lived in Houston. The $3,000 computer, I was also in Houston. So that means I was like probably 7 or 8 years old. So I'm pretty fortunate that I got to have a computer in my house at such a young age. And I no doubt that had some effect on me. But my dad had this like flying game. It was Microsoft, Flight Simulator. Yeah. And I would play that a lot. And then when I got to San Antonio, in 4th grade, we learned there was a program called Logic, I think it was, where it had this like little turtle that you could draw, you would program and you would draw things with this little turtle. So that I got some exposure there. Now the internet really happened. I remember when we got internet in our house, I want to say that was like, we had a dial-up modem. And I remember the sounds, again, my dad like had this and it was he had Yahoo, he didn't have Yahoo, but like we would go to Yahoo and check, there was what did you call those pages? It was just like a page, like a direct.
Yeah, like a directory. Right.
Yeah. So now your internet experience goes even deeper than mine, like, because you were really into you were communicating with people. I was looking up information, but you were actually communicating with people at a very early age of the internet through what kind of stuff were you using?
That's true. Yeah, I'd go on Prodigy and
yes,
and I'd trade like underground tapes in a nonprofit way, and finding this whole network of people who were like media enthusiasts, archivists who wanted to like document weird things, like found collages. And that was kind of my inroad into rap, because like people would put stuff at the end of the mixtape that was just weird. And so it was like interesting that peer-to-peer file sharing, like the whole, I don't know, like the tape trading network is kind of like an analog precursor to blockchain in a way, right? Because it's all these people sharing, creating these networks, which is kind of, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a good way to not lose stuff. So like, as long as someone had a copy of it, like it wouldn't be lost forever, right? And the more copies proliferated, the more likely it was to sustain the test of time. Yeah.
And I found, it was so funny, man, because like one of the tapes, I would like put like weird sounds between like the different pieces. I found it on YouTube, and it was like a 4th generation copy of my copy, because I knew, because the weird sounds I'd put on there were the ones I knew I recorded like with my little mic on my little stereo that I sent someone in Chicago. So the reason I asked this is because it's just like interesting how our generation, like the older millennials, had this sort of ability to see what the world was like before all of the intense connection and online, like metaverse precursor, and then what it's like now. And so it's kind of interesting that like we are like the older Jedi who have this perspective on what it's like to be offline. So my question for you, DJ, is how do you disconnect? Like, I know we're talking now after work, and you've been nice enough to make time to talk on Zoom. Like, how do you disconnect from technology, or do you like, and how do you find that spiritual balance then?
Yeah, no, literally every Sunday I make myself stop working. So I can't work on any of my projects unless it's a project that helps someone. So if I have to do a financial coaching session, I can do that on a Sunday, but I'm not going to work on my, Vacay, my startup, on a Sunday. It feels weird calling it my startup. Let me just back up a second. I have an amazing team of people that I work with. Like, these are people that, I put out an ad and they like the vision and they've come on board to help. And I owe so much of any success that we have to these incredibly smart people that for some reason have decided to like work with me on this. And so it's not my startup. It's like our startup.
But it's your idea. It was your idea, right? Or
it was my idea, and it has been made so much better than my original idea because of the wonderful people around me. So I just always want to give credit where credit is. You know, that's one cool thing. So we're going to talk. I didn't forget about your question about disconnecting, but this is just something I learned as a founder is like, nobody's good at everything, right? So the best thing I could possibly do is quickly identify my strengths and weaknesses, and then play to my strengths and work with people who can backfill my weaknesses, right? So the reason I work with 12 people, it's not 12 full-time hires, it's 12 expert contractors who do very specific things in very specific areas. And that's what they do. So anytime something needs to get done, if it's in their area, they just knock it out, right? And then my job really is, and my strength is like taking care of people. And so I look at my team as I say that with, it's my team in that they are my responsibility. Like I have to take care of them.
Where can the listeners learn more about Vacay?
Oh yeah, we are www.vacayhq.com. So you can see our little like demo landing page that we have up. Yeah, we're pre-funding and all that stuff. So we're like in the validation stage. We're trying to make sure we're building something people actually want. And then we're going to go try and get some funding and see if we can keep this thing going for a while. But it's the thing that's cool about doing what you love. And I didn't forget about your disconnect question. We're going to come back to that. But the thing that's cool about doing what you love is it's not about the destination. Like I love every bit of this journey. Like the meetings that we have every day, the like getting on Slack and responding to people and keeping the momentum going, the taking care of the team. So one day I hope we like are able to exit in some way for enough money so that we can all do what we want to do. But in the meantime, like I'm having a blast. And so even if it fails, it's not a failure to me because I enjoyed the journey. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
And so that means that disconnecting is not a necessary escape from it.
Yeah. So the reason I disconnect is because like, I don't want to burn out on any of these things. And I have a tendency to just like work a lot. Cause I like working on stuff. I like what I'm doing. So I think it's not that I just like working period. It's because I have very specifically chosen what I'm working on. And I happen to like all these things. So on Sunday, I make sure I stop working and I can only like either help people or I can watch movies. And it's really hard actually, because I like want to do research on some specific topic and I go, no, that's related to the business. I can't research that. And I just try to make myself take naps. And so, but it is a really relaxing day. And then when you get back onto Monday, you're feeling a little bit more re-energized. So,
and that's how people burn out. And that's like, we played so many shows on the road together. Like we made so many songs. The only way to do that was to take breaks, right? We had these intense months of touring when you were like between projects and so that's like with anything, like music is still one of my favorite passions in the world, but like, I don't want to be living in a van 10 months a year anymore. You know what I mean? Doing that, like you gotta unplug a little bit. And I think as we enter the latter part of our 30s, it's like we have this wisdom where the meaning in life changes, but it's cool that we have all these moments we can archive and stories we can tell. And like this podcast will live on the Permacast, which is it's a network hosted on Arweave, which means people will be able to find it in hundreds of years when we're gone.
Let's talk about this actually, because something we haven't mentioned is I am a fanatic about storing things. Like so when Andrew and I were on tour, anytime I could, I took lots of pictures and I never delete a picture. I'm kind of like OCD about that. I just want to keep all my photos. It's because I have a pretty bad memory. And so I don't ever want to lose any of these things. And as long as I can remember, I've always had like a hard drive that I'm storing things on. And I've always worried about that. And, I'm constantly trying to figure out how can I keep this stuff in existence for not just me, but for when my kids are around and like their kids. And, and remember when we used to have to burn CDs?
And then the CDs won't play. Some of them won't play anymore.
the like paint flakes off in the back, and exactly.
So you're telling me you're looking for a solution for permanent storage. I'm glad.
You like that transition? But it's honest though. It's like really true.
Like, yeah, that's what's like, I feel like a project like Arweave and ArDrive is perfect for someone like you who's an archivist. Like you were showing me your hard drive earlier and I was showing you the pricing calculator. Like that's super cool because media can fail. Our bodies can fail, but our memories and our stories like live on forever. Hey, that could be our tagline. Being able to back up all those photos privately or publicly is exciting, right? It's you don't have to, it's one less thing to worry about. It's like reaching that ability to unplug because you know your data is safe and censorship resistant and permanent. It's tight, man. It's really tight.
It's very relieving in a way to know that you don't have, it's not something you have to be concerned about. Whether my house is like, whether something's going to happen to my hard drive and like now all those photos are lost forever. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, Andrew, you have tons, and I think I have a lot of stuff like in terms of things I've collected over the years, and just you have more than probably anyone I know. You are a true collector of both digital and physical like memorabilia. So you have a ton of pictures, you have tons of like old tracks and stuff like that.
Sometimes I'll email you. I'll be like, DJ, do you have that Electric Ghost song? You're like, got it. You sent me a link to like Andrew's rare stuff that only you had because you downloaded it, you'd saved it from the studio. And so you're like an archivist in by nature, and like it's interesting, like a lot of the questions with digital storage, it's like, okay, if you own the copyright or it's your own music, it's okay to host and share. We try to make sure people aren't sharing copywritten things because ArDrive and Arweave is not for that. But if it's your own stuff, ultimately, you always said you have to be your own biggest fan with music, right? And you have to be your own archivist because no one else is going to be the steward of your data, steward of your stories. And so, yeah, man. It's cool that you have all that stuff saved and you've been very meticulous about it. Like how many terabytes do you think you have of photos and videos?
I'll tell you this, when I left college, I had, this is years ago, and I had like 7 of those CD cases full of like stuff that I had saved, and and then a lot of it was music because I love music. And remember at the time, like you couldn't just get music whenever you wanted music. You had to like have the CD. This is before streaming, and then streaming came out, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't need all these CDs. And Allison has tried to make me throw away my CDs so many times, but I'm like, no. The photo inserts, like you can't get those on Spotify.
The liner notes. You were the first on Rhapsody. I remember you were like showing me how to log in. We were listening to Michael Jackson the summer before he passed away up at Tahoe, and like you were showing me Rhapsody. I was like, this is dope. This is the future. This was like 2009, man, or 2009. Like you were on Rhapsody years before Spotify was mass adopted.
Yeah, I remember seeing Spotify for the first time in the UK. We were in somebody's like dorm room, and they were showing me Spotify. And I was like, wait, what is this? Wait, you downloaded all this stuff? Wait, you didn't download all this stuff? It's just online? I don't understand. Yeah. And then like it came to America, a year or two later. And I actually got to meet, I should say I walked past several times, Daniel Ek. He was in the studio in the one I worked at in San Francisco. And he had his laptop. This was probably like 2015, 16, something like that. Mm-hmm. He had his laptop. He's just real quiet, working on what I can only assume he's probably sending emails and stuff for Spotify.
Well, and did you produce the Panic is Perfect stuff with Sean Parker, that band he was managing? You worked on that stuff too.
I did work on that, yes. And those guys are great. And it's cool because I can go back and listen to the album, which is on Spotify, and hear all the little things that I remember from the studio. Like it'll bring us back to the memories. But, those guys are also studio pros themselves. So they really did a lot of they did a lot of the heavy lifting. That was cool. Like I basically am good at teaching. So I would teach people how to use the studio, and then I would like sit down and just be available for help. That was my trick as an engineer. I'd teach people how to use it because they wanted to do, they wanted to use, they wanted to be in there for like hours and do their own tweaking and stuff. Yeah. So I just teach them and then just be available and order food because Sean Parker was super kind. True story. Grubhub called us one day. The vice president of Grubhub called us and said, "Hi, just wanted to say thank you. You are our number one customer in all of San Francisco." The studio ordered so much food. It was great.
Well, it's like, what is it? It's that like the Bible story of the loaves and fishes, right? Like, I think we can end on this. You taught me, because you were so patient with me with my vocals. Like, I was like, to be honest, like in 1998 or whatever, when I started rapping, it was just the novelty of it. I didn't have a flow. I just had a lot of excitement. And when we started producing the stuff that was the laptop EP and everything, like, you would always make me redo takes, but I would always be up for the challenge. Like, you'd have me redo a line maybe for 20 minutes and you'd be like, that's the take. And that's like, now when I do songs, man, I can record a song in 20 minutes because I have your like production ear. And so I know when something's tight and when it's not. And it's like, I can do it myself because you taught me how to listen and how to be honest about my appraisal. Just like you've taught me a lot of stuff about business and being a good person. And so you are a teacher. And I think like you reflect the generosity and the hope that I feel like Silicon Valley and all those people in our Stanford sphere like has potentially, and how Web3 can be this distillation, maybe not like a solution to everything, but it gives people back the power that and the hope that I feel like the world maybe had more of 20 years ago that you still have. And it inspires me, dude. That's what I want to say.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's just all about, we're here to help each other. We're all like a part of the same journey. And there's no reason to have a mindset of scarcity. Just be generous and watch what comes back to you. That's what I say.
So just like count your blessings as they return back to you.
Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of tight. Having an attitude of gratitude. I know that's like a cliche thing now. That was a lyric you liked from one of the.
Yeah, it was gotta switch my attitude to gratitude. That was Pigeon John was.
Oh, that's from Pigeon John. Okay. Pigeon John, you like what? Wait, and then what's the other one? Call Florence Powell.
I do like Call Florence Powell. So there was Self. There's a band from the 90s. Matt Mahaffey, still love him. Call Florence Powell was a band that he helped produce. And another band I just got to shout out is Wallpaper. So, Ricky Reed and those guys. I love, one of my favorite albums of all time is Wallpaper, the first album, which is, I don't even want to say the name. The name is Doo-Doo Face. Because it's that face you make when something's real funky. Yeah. And they had some funky lines on there, some funky.
And Ricky Reed did a lot of stuff with Lizzo, didn't he?
Yeah, Ricky Reed went on to be a very big success. But I'll always love his old Wallpaper stuff. So
we were on Warped Tour 2013. We were on the same stage, and it was cool because we both played that the BFD, that San Francisco festival at Shoreline, and seeing him, like, you always had the ability to spot talent. Like that show we did with T-Pain when he was still kind of like breaking through, you're like, in a year he's going to be huge. And you were right. Like you're able to see things before they get big. That's a talent of yours, man. I don't know. Do you agree that you have like that producer ear?
What is it? Gotten really fortunate. You're right, because there's a lot of people I worked with that went on to like do great things. Again, such as yourself, right? Like, and I don't know how it happens, but it's like I look for a combination of high quality person. I don't know. I don't really like working with jerks, right? And you're not a jerk, so I like working with good people. And then I do. Yeah, I'm pretty particular about stuff that I like. So. I guess I have an ear for that sort of thing. Although who knows? But yeah. Yeah.
Well, you work with enough artists, right? Some of them, a few of them are you open for enough bands. A few of them are bound to be big, right? Well, DJ, where can people get a hold of you or follow you? I know you're on Twitter. But do you want to plug anything?
So if you need help with financial coaching, I'll tell you about that first and foremost. So I have a nonprofit that I started, just a few months ago. So all this pro bono financial coaching I've been doing, I decided to wrap it in a nonprofit so that I can start applying for grants and things like that, to improve, to expand the program and whatever. But
that's what's
you can go. Yeah, thank you. But the website URL is theafesociety.org, and AFE stands for Advancement of Financial Empowerment. So theafesociety.org. What it will do is it'll take you straight to my calendar, and you can book time with me, it's dangerous for me to put this out there, but I trust that you all, you won't use it in a bad way, because I do believe that the more people I can help, the better. So yeah, if you want to book time with my calendar, I don't have to know you or anything. Just if you want to come and talk about some personal finance stuff, I'm here to.
Is that a nonprofit you started or that you collaborate with?
No, I started it. It's my own nonprofit.
And you're on Patreon. So if anyone wants to support, patreon.com/the Society. If you want to give back, if you want to shout that out. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah. And so the other place you'll see me a lot more these days, or in addition, is of course vacayhq.com. I'm going to try and help some people go travel big, budget better, travel bigger. Is our tagline, and we want people to go on more vacations, better vacations, bigger vacations, but also with less hassle and save money. And it's a tall order, and it seems like impossible to do all those things. But I like tough challenges, and I do believe we can help people in that way.
Final question: let's say someone went on one of these vacations or learned about financial literacy, and they wanted to document it with photos, with text documents, with Excel spreadsheets. Do you think there'd be a way for them to permanently back that up in a decentralized way? What do you think, though?
Off the top of my head, the only true solution that comes to mind is ArDrive.
Hey! Oh, yeah. So interesting.
I don't know if you've heard of them, but...
Oh, and then also, if anyone wants to hear DJ's rap, there's a song called It's a Party, Y'all on Spotify with the EP with K.Flay, and DJ has a verse, and it's a great verse with a lot of plays. So not only can he do all these other things, he also is a pretty good rapper.
Learned it from you, buddy.
Well, thank you for listening and support my man DJ. And DJ, this conversation has been great. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Andrew. Always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, DJ. That was a very great conversation. It's always awesome catching up with you, and thank you for your time. Be sure to check out DJ's projects and follow him on Twitter at Damondrick. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of the ArCast. Stay tuned for more info on RNS and ants. And if you don't know what that is, check out our social media, because we're going to be talking about it a lot more coming up. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.